Hello, this is Kali J.N.S. with Nakhti University, and I'm honestly doing an impromptu set song on this Friday, this Good Friday, Venus Day, on like a pilot idea that I have in terms of like a show that I would like to see, and a show that, it's really interesting times that we're in, with this economy stuff, right? As I was watching this YouTuber, he shows people's financial decisions, good or bad, but mainly, obviously, the algorithm tends to want to see the crash out. So, it's more popular to do the videos that show people making like horrific financial decisions. And, I watch those videos because I learn from them. And then I also, can relate to many of the things that the people are going through, And so one of the things that they talk about is like the dopamine hit that you get when you shop. Obviously we can all relate to. Let me actually get up and move around while I'm just sitting here talking. I'd rather not waste my time here. So it's 9:13. Okay, this time I got to do 40 minutes. Okay. So, you talk about the dopamine hit that you get when you shop or you buy something, right? So I'm pretty sure we all can relate to that. And so he shows that, and these people just making like these crazy, financial decisions, and, these crazy things, spending money they don't got, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I was thinking about like, what if there was like a pilot study, honestly, like a pilot study / even reality TV. And I am actually shopping this idea, through Nakhti University. But hear me out. So we have this pilot idea of these control groups of which we want to study. Well, what will happen? We have like these participants that volunteer to be a part of this experiment. And I do think it could be something that could be shown on TV or something. And then you have one group that gets unlimited budget, right? So we get to see, and I'm thinking like probably no more than like 5 to 10 participants. I would even like to be one of those participants. And you get one group, and I think they could probably all either, have to stay in close vicinity. How like Mr. Beast be building like them little cities or whatever. I think it could be something like that. How Mr. Beast he builds the cities for the Beast games. So I think it could be something like that before, like this sort of experiment that I'm talking about. So your first control group is the group that gets the unlimited budget, the unlimited amount of money to literally spend. And then the other control group, they get a limited budget that is rational based on the expenses that would sustain themselves and give them sustenance, food, clothing, shelter. And they, on the other hand, would be forced to budget. Like they, so what I want to observe is like, what happens if you because right now people's overspending because they get the dopamine hit, but then it's like they're not managing their wants or developing a discipline around wants versus needs. What happens if you if you give them a limited amount of money? Would they tire themselves out of the dopamine hit and learn to develop that discipline, or would you create a bigger monster? For the group that gets the unlimited budget, that's honestly what, I'm a sociologist, so I would want to study that. I'm not going to hold you. I want to study that, like the group that gets that, the group of humans that get the unlimited budget, and they get to just buy whatever they want. And a certain amount of time, give it like 30 days, 30-day experiment or whatever, or however long a researcher that has more experience with these type of things based on like IRB review what would be standard, and what are the safeties and the risk and the cautions of letting someone's dopamine desires just run through the roof, which I could imagine it wouldn't be much of a pain to the participants. But hear me out. So, I personally want to know, will they get bored of it pretty much? How would the dopamine hit of being able to buy whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, what does that do to the brain in terms of, do you have a lesser desire to have that dopamine hit? Do you create an even more consumer spirit? How do we do with the consumer spirit? I'm joking. But it's like, do people get possessed with this consumer spirit more? Or by that I mean, do people's unbridled lust for wants and desires get out of control? Or do the dopamine levels out and then it doesn't have the same effect? They no longer feel the need to want to shop, and it kind of cures, this like, okay, this is kind of pointless. This is kind of stupid. Like, what kind of conclusions do they come for? How did you feel beforehand? I think they should get a survey beforehand around shopping, around budgeting, around how it makes them feel. How does it make you feel when you go shopping? How does it make you feel? What kind of things do you like to buy? And then after the experiment, you also want to know, how does it make you feel now? Did you get bored? Did you get overwhelmed? Did you feel tired? Did you feel, and ask those type of questions, and then even do a post-hoc review, probably like, I'd say 2 weeks, just to monitor what did they do after all of that. What's your behavior like pretty much after the experimentation? And so that's for the unlimited group, the group that can buy whatever they want, however they want, now obviously within reason. So you probably wouldn't have, I don't know how it would work in terms of like, obviously you can't buy but they would have an unlimited amount of like digital money, and I do think that some of the things should be actually like tangible, like when it comes to, they probably have, I don't know how it would work, but maybe 30 days would be too much because then people can get crazy, but maybe just 2 weeks of just unlimited money. You get 2 weeks of just unlimited money, whatever you want to buy. And when we say unlimited, obviously within reason of what a show could afford or what a budget could afford. And this is digital currencies, and then you just let people get certain things that they want. Then you have, wait a minute, hold on here, hold on. Okay, still recording. Okay, cool. And then you have the group that has to learn to budget based on what they have, their expenses now. So they're learning to budget. They're on a strict budget. And this could be a group that I think maybe a mixture of people who already are good with budgeting and people who are already bad with budgeting. Or you could just do all people that are bad with budgeting, that like to shop, that get the dopamine hit too. It's probably ideal to do. Actually, yeah, as for an experiment, you want to control for spending habits. So I say everybody that gets chosen, whether they in the experiment group that's unlimited or the group that is limited budget, I think all of them should be what you consider consumers that like to spend and don't like to budget. They don't like to budget. That's why you could control for that. So as far as me trying to study it and bringing awareness of like, how do you deal with the consumer spirit? Does giving people more access to a bunch of money, unlimited money, does that breed more consumer possession? Or do they get tired of it? What is the effect that the dopamine has on their brain, the dopamine levels, the serotonin levels? This is actual, a social experiment. But I think it could also be kind of like reality TV too, because people get to see what kind of, it's like a social experiment. It's like, what would you do meets Survivor meets The Price is Right. Because motherfuckers get to, you want, that you want to see that. I would personally be interested in that. But then for the limited group, the limited budget, they don't like the budget either, but they have no choice but the budget. And they have to be rational. They have to consciously think about wants versus needs. They have to check their desires. They have to be mature about things. They don't get to just get unlimited. So, while the other group for 2 weeks is living it up, spending it up, buying cars, buying whatever. Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that. And you want to see how they're going to react. Are they just going to go crazy? Or are they going to realize, like, I actually don't really need that. I already have a car. I already have, I don't need that. Will they have that rationality, or will the beast of consumerism emerge out of the brain and to seek out further even more dopamine hit? You know what I mean? Like, so to be honest, I would just be curious in that, and I did think that should be a show, and I am going to pilot that idea probably to a couple of networks, but I do think that it will be a cool experiment in terms of measuring dopamine. And I think it should be something real quick and set up. Nothing where you got to have all of this, like I said, maybe a town or even townhome complex that you can rent out that features some of these contestants, or you can have them in the same vicinity. I personally think that you may want to have a place where they come to, because you want to get, for experimental purposes, you kind of want to get more than just one area. So you may want the south, east, west, north of America, because then you get to also compare results. Like you get people from the limited and the unlimited budget from each area of the country, the west, the north, the south, and you can also get a sense of the different cultures. So I don't think it should just be, okay, you just only do people in Georgia, or only do people in California, I think it should be contestants from various parts of the country, and then you bring them into one vicinity. And I think that vicinity could be, let's see, like I said, you could rent out duplex, you can rent out townhome, or, if you got like this massive budget or whatever, you can even build a whole city like how Mr. Beast does. And if you don't have that, because that, again, reality TV is on a budget too. If you can't do the city thing, you can do, like I said, just keep it simple. And then the IRB process, I think that you should have an actual staffed sociologist and maybe sociologists, psychologists on the board. Kind of like how, like, Why Do You Get Married? How they had a licensed sociologist on there. I do think that you could have like a real sociologist and psychologist on board too, because you have to probably get some sort of IRB review. And then, like I said, this is the idea of Nakhti University. Obviously, we're not well known, but like this would be something that we would want to be involved in as far as the setup. But also, we also know that there's people that have more experience in that field, especially as like social experiment meets TV. You still have to, there's still producers involved. There's, and my thing is, this not going to be everybody, the producers is encouraging people to just drink and fight or nothing like that. It has to be, we want it more natural than that. Now, I understand people have to beef up things and whatnot, but I think the premise of the show alone is enough to start, is to cause, it's enough drama for your mama. It would be enough drama on its own. It really would. You got the people that got the limited budget, you know, and I think you should have them in close vicinity. I think you should have them in close vicinity just to see, do people get jealous? You know, like, okay, you see other people that you see them buying, coming back with Gucci bags. Like, what is the group that's on a limited budget? How do they react? Do they double down on finding peace? Do they double down and realizing that, you know, they can go within for their, you know, they don't have to have all those desires. They don't need to covet what other people have. They shouldn't covet. They should check their ego. Or do they get like all upset? Like, that should be, you know, we want to see those reactions in real time. You know, so I think that would make for an excellent reality TV show. I really fucking do. And like I said, I was thinking about that because I said, you know, what if you gave everybody unlimited money? What would they do? Would they tire themselves out? Would they dopamine their ass out? And then, or would they develop, you know, more discipline or whatever? You know, like, I was just wondering, like, or do you create a bigger monster? You can't just assume that they would just get so tired and so fed up with just buying stuff and so tired of, you know, like, what would actually happen? And so I think that that's something that could be studied, and then we can actually see, like, with the consumer spirit, because there is a consumer spirit. You know, these are things that can address that. You know, and so I really was thinking about that as I was watching this show. I said that show is so fascinating. Well, it's like it's not a show. It's just like a YouTuber that shows like people making these crazy decisions, and I be kind of cracking up because, you know, I can relate. I don't spend like that because I just don't have it to spend. But I'm sure if I did, maybe I would. I don't know how to react. But I think it's fascinating to watch, like, the people's minds, their approaches to things, you know. And you have this group of people that say, you know, this thing about retirement. Like, there's one group that says, well, we don't know how long we're going to live, so we shouldn't retire. And then there's another group that says, well, you can live longer. You don't really know. What if you are one of those people that live to 60, 70, 80? And so it's better to be old with some sort of finances than to be old and broke, you know, especially when, you know, you have to worry more about health care, and, you know, your family may just want to stick your ass in a nursing home, you know what I mean? And so you have to think about those things too. As far as, you know, I'm not one of the ones that think, oh, we just live it up for now because that's just, you know, we don't know you know, and I was shocked to know that there's like so many humans that agree with that. Like, oh, we only gonna be here, we don't know how long, so we might as well just spin and do whatever we want. And so I'm like, really? Like, people are thinking like that? I'm not saying I take things the most serious, don't get me wrong, because I really don't. But at the same time, I never had that approach, because it is like, what if your motherfucking ass get old and you need health care, you have to stabilize, you can't really think that SSI gonna be here. You can't assume SSI going to be here. You can't assume your family's going to help you out. You can't assume you're going to have a network of people to depend on. And speaking of networks to depend on, I do want to cover this real quickly. That's, you know, where the Nakhti Queen Mothership come in. This was, that originally was designed, if you notice, even with the original book and even some ladies I talked to behind the scenes, it was for Black women's and their children and their husbands, or say they had a spouse or a partner that also wanted to have an honorary membership. But the Nakhti Queen Mothership was for infrastructure building for Black women, given the vulnerability that Black women have. The reason about the Nakhti Queen Mothership, when you read the original book, the first book, and then you look at some of the just ongoing protocols that was created years ago about like some of the community aspects of it. Obviously, you know, children would benefit from that. But we were talking about like what happens with Black women who are childless. What happens to Black women that are childless by choice, that do not get married by choice, or who are divorced, or who are married but still want that network. what happens when they get old? Like, do they start, it's like, what kind of networks and community can we depend on as elder Black women who are childless by choice? There's women that make a conscious decision to not have kids. There's women who make a conscious decision to not get married, whether they're from priestesshoods, whether it's because of old bloodline covenants, just smart ideas, just wanting to save money, just wanting to have more time for themselves so they can go motherfucking travel, so they can go do what they want to do with their little funds, or just relax. Like, we don't know the reasons for why women decide to, and it's broader than just Black women. You have to realize that there's a lot of women that are going childless by choice, even in Asian countries. There's big movements around, like the 4chan stuff, which I have to say, I don't know much about it, to speak out against it or for it. I don't know much about 4chan to speak, and I'm going to reiterate that, I don't know much about 4chan enough to speak for it or against it. So I'm a little ignorant on it, but I've heard Black women talk about it briefly, I want to say about 5 years ago, and I have a good memory, so I remember the term. And it was something that they said that it was either happening in Korea or Vietnam. Don't quote me. I really think that it was Korea, though. I really got a feeling that it was Korea. I know it wasn't Japan, because Japan already had their movement right after the war, and the women punished the men and made them build up, it's not that they punished the men, it's just that they felt like, oh, you lost the war. And so after that, the women kind of got turned off, and they wouldn't give them sex, or wouldn't, the birth rates went down pretty much. And so the men had to actually show more innovation and more building within Japan, and making business moves and all these things to bring the women back on board, to get them attracted again, so that they would want to marry and want to sleep with them. So if this is biological hardwiring, you guys can get upset, but you can study the animal kingdom, any animal kingdom, especially patriarchal ones, and you will see what happens when the males lose a fight, when the males lose a war, when the males get embarrassed by another top male, especially in the gorilla kingdom, the seal. Is it lion seals or the water seals? You should see how they get. Oh, if y'all ass lose a fight, the whole community, if you a male, the whole entire sea clan would just leave you out there to die. You will not get any food, and you will just be left for dead. And the women no women will sleep with you, but all the women want to sleep with the top dog that won. And you can see this time and time again in the animal kingdom. Time and time again. They want to sleep with the top dog. And that's in patriarchal societies. But guess what? That same sentiment also exists in matriarchal societies in the animal kingdom too. Same with the lion. Lions are matriarchal. Same with the cows. Cows are matriarchals. Horses are matriarchal. But they are more social. The focus is on more social cohesion, with the exception of lions. So they're not as competitive. But male lions are very competitive. Male elephants are very competitive. Even dolphins to an extent, but they have more intelligence. So it's more so a different type of competitive is rooted also in your intelligence. So some of the more intelligent creatures, your males show their competitiveness and impressing by being intelligent. Like, oh, I'm more intelligent than him, or look what I can do. My mind works more faster than his. So the dolphins, believe it or not, show that. And I wrote a book on this. The book is called The Law of Gender. And so we were pretty much covering all of the animal kingdom. We was covering all of these patriarchal and matriarchal societies from the animals. And what was interesting is that we found out a lot of matriarchal animals that you guys love so much, including the lion. The lion's the king of the jungle. Is it really, or is it the queen? Because lions are matriarchal. And so a lot of people wanted to avoid those conversations and those topics. For what reason? I don't fucking know. Because I told you there was a whole network that reverse engineered everything that is draining, like it's designed to drain the power of women. And they keep wanting to deny that. But everybody knows it. It's like, are y'all really going to sit and deny? And then my first book lists all of the matriarchal societies that ever existed. Mind you, that was only a little bit. I found even more. So if I had to come back, like one day if I get bored and I want to write a part 2 of matriarchal societies, I'll be able to show the overthrow of the Queen Mothership, tribe by tribe, timeline by timeline. I'll be able to show even more tribes. just to prove my point to you shiesty ass motherfuckers that keep trying to say, oh, there was never any matriarchal societies. There was never any, like, you sound crazy. And it sounds like you got an agenda to push, because why are you so gung-ho to bury that history? Why do you want it buried so bad should be the question that any person should think of. Like, okay, why do we want this hidden so much? And it's only a certain group of people that want it hidden so much at that, because it don't even apply to every group, right? It don't apply. It's melanated people's history. It's like the melanated people trying to cover it up. And the melanated people trying to copy patriarchy for the last 1,000 years and haven't been getting nowhere with it. They haven't been able to get anywhere with it. Nowhere with it. Not even an iota, not even a little bit. And they still haven't put two and two together. That's something biologically hardwired within systems or within even the environments themselves that may not be natural or conducive to us. And I would argue that the environment is very unnatural, you know. But anyways, forgive me, I'm starting my day and gotta put more soil in my plants and making bed and all, and trying to do everything that I do in the mornings to get my day started. And this was just on my mind, you know. I'm just like, okay, so we got that. Okay, so yeah, so the Nakhti Queen Mothership, though, and this is for Black women. I know a lot of Black women, they didn't want to support it some years ago because they felt like, well, men are allowed in it, and they didn't like the aspect that there were men allowed in the Nakhti Queen Mothership. But I want to reiterate is that what it was and what I said even back then and what I say even now is that it was for Black women who were members already and had children or had a husband who on his own wanted to be a voluntary member. They look at the stuff, they like the doctrines, they like the material, and it's not a big deal, so they'd be an honorary member because their wife is a member. That was the extent of it. It wasn't going to actively recruit men. But at the same time, men do enforce matriarchal structures generally, or even diarchal structures, through defense. And so to me, it was just a very much a holistic way of thinking. It wasn't so much like I don't know why I had got pushback from it. And I think that's why the women was like, well, we don't like it because, you know, there's men involved. And it wasn't like they were involved in the coming up of the ideas, the architecture of the ideas, the blueprints of it. They didn't come up with any blueprints. They didn't have any, the stuff is already laid out. And so the pushback was that, men get to be in it. Men get to be members, but it's like, as far as the group, as far as the infrastructure that Black women need, based on their own vulnerabilities, knowing what takes place in our community, knowing that no one is going to build an infrastructure for us. White men are not going to build it. Asian men are not going to build it. Latino men are not going to build it. Black men are not going to build it. So what are you going to do for those of us that decide we want to be childless by choice? Widows, women whose children abandon them, Black women who are elders. Like, what's your answer to all of that as women? Like, go to the nursing home, be homeless out on the streets? Like, what is your answer to that? That's what we're facing. And so the network was for us to have strong contingency plans around how do we deal with each other, but then how do you look out for one another? And that's really all it is. Like, a net, you know, it's obviously way more to that, considerably a lot more to that. But one of the components is when we get elders and we get old, what do? You know, how do we, you know, like you want to make sure you have things in place as a society for vulnerable women. You can't assume that these men are going to look out for you, that your children are going to look out for you. And for those who don't have children, you damn sure can't. You're like, what are you going to do? SSI may not be here. HUD or whatever else shit is around may not be here. So the membership of the Nakhti Queen Mothership was for us to have those intentional communities like we've been saying. And then one component is for the members, of the women that are members, is to make sure that we provide those safety nets for one another and that infrastructure even to look out for one another. And that comes from dues and being able, like, it's kind of like you creating your own safety net, essentially. You know, this is stuff that the church should have been setting up because, you know, you got people that pay all these money into tithes and all this nonsense. And then they don't have, when something happens, an emergency happens, or they, maybe a fire breaks out. They can't even go to the church to go get help from the emergency funds for the parishioners after all of those donations, after all of those tithes. So people scoff at my idea for a fund that will actually is dedicated solely for those type of issues, but then want to go and donate thousands to a black church or to a church. And then when something happens, you don't get no help from the pastor or nothing. If you stop paying, they kick you out. And they do kick you. They can kick you out if you stop paying tithes, or they can kick you out, or they can refuse help if you ask. Even if like, there's even a story that went viral of a lady who spent 20 years, I think 20, 30 years at a church paying so much tithes every week, and then something had happened, an emergency had happened, and she asked for help, and they didn't give her the help. So the Nakhti Queen Mothership is against that. That's not what we do. We have the funds that are appropriated and allocated specifically for these type of issues with our members. And we know how much members have invested. We know what yield they have earned on their investment and on their membership. And if they need the help, we want to be able to give them that help. And this is the stuff that is just, it's already in, and I already put it out in a book. And people could say, well, you have to get on the ground with it. You have to, your idea come out from your fucking head first before you could do anything with it. You don't just go out on a grassroots level and spring certain ideas to people and without getting it written, flushed out, without having the numbers, without knowing the research behind whatever you're trying to push. I know the research behind the marriage rates in the black community. I know the research behind the domestic violence rates, the birth rates. All of these things I already I'm aware of when I was writing these materials. Even the optional arranged marriage program. Again, this is a women's matriarchy. And the men's, you know, they feel some type of way because they ain't come up with it. That's all it is. It ain't like they know the ideas. They saw the government copying parts of it. They just know that if you copy it like that, that's just blatant plagiarism in a book from an actual scholar. And you're trying to implement it, we can implement it, but it is matriarchal. So why would you see men? I have documented it. You saw men trying to implement it. And I called them out. Because I'm like, are y'all serious? They was just going to try to be this, you know, how they do. Now, if they are a defense mechanism that is executing the ideas on your behalf, that's different. But that's not what they were doing. They were just trying to steal it. And so this is what we're dealing with. But the thing is, these women, you know, they looking for patriarch. They looking for black men to build it. You're going to be waiting the kingdom come. You're going to be waiting. You might as well wait for, look, you might as well wait for cows to fly. Like, they don't have any interest. And even if they do have the money, they tell you the first hand, they're not going to build nothing for you. Even if they did have it, they still wouldn't build it for you. And so, you know, it's not about pushing, like I guess with the women, they were upset at me because they felt like, okay, we shouldn't have men involved in it at all. It should just be only for women. And I just think that's unrealistic, given that women have spouses and women will have male children, or they already have children. And to be honest, like You just it's programming already in the Black community when it comes to Black women that honestly is very unnatural. I'll just say that, and I'll show a video of that. I'll show you how. Probably around next week, I'll show you some lyrics to certain songs that led to our programming. It's already recorded. I just wanted to do it live and whatnot. It's a pretty long video. So anyways, the programming in the community is very, very unnatural. And it's like it infantilizes all Black people, right? Melanated people in America, because of the power structures and the dynamics that are hegemonic over Black America, aka you already know, white supremacy. But it's deeper than that, because you got a whole networks and bloodline families that's trying to assert power that is illegitimate over Black America. And so you have multiple factors involved. Then you have Black snakes. You have Black gatekeepers that also enact or keep up the status quo of that hegemonic system that feeds off of the pain of Black women, the pain that also like they do sacrifice too of Black women and Black children. And so you have to combat that on a spiritual level, but you have to have awareness of what's happening. And you have to have awareness of your vulnerability and your intricacies that you face. You can't stick your head in the sand. And that's what a lot of Black women like to do. That's why a lot of Black women like to go to the church and sit up and listen to a male pastor teach them botched masonry, botched knowledge, instead of the actual real teachings of the Bible. And so you see this it's an inversion all around, because people benefit from the psychosis, the psychosis all around. Capitalism psychosis, consumer psychosis, religious psychosis, all types of stuff, And so the Nakhti Queen Mothership, while it's deeply spiritual and deeply nature-based, it is very logical when it comes to like the safekeeping and the safeguarding of knowledge, but also the infrastructure building, the parallel infrastructure building that women need. Like, I thought this shit out. Like, wait a minute. Like, Black women, they had this whole childless movement. Even the women's in Asia is doing this childless movement. What the fuck you gonna do when we get old? And you would have to set up those networks and have those funds ready. And not just funds in a form of just fiat currency, but other methods of funds. Your own, your food supply. You're growing your own food, your own water supplies. And even a network, even under us, with the young women that volunteer. Maybe they earn points. Maybe within the barter economy, they earn a certain amount of points and a certain amount of service points that they can once again use in a hybrid barter economy if they allocate a certain amount of time to helping the elders, helping the elder get around, helping maybe picking out their food and they veggies and stuff for them because they can't get around. Dedicating a certain amount of time to do welfare checks. That's those type of things for your elders. This is something that we have to set up as a community, as a Black community. It's already been around for like 5-6 years. They've suppressed my work because they don't want the solutions. They just want the pain and the misery and the dysfunction, and they want to see Black people down bad. There are other Black people that are getting paid to keep us down bad. And we're not all down bad, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying we have more sophisticated systems than the ones being offered to us. Is what I'm saying, is that we could come up with more sophisticated systems, more intelligent systems, more innovative systems than the ones that currently exist, and the ones that's being offered to us, and the programming that's being offered to us. It's not good enough, in other words. And, I'm just saying, as women, you look around, you take a look, and you see these type of things. And even the groups that are women-based, like these, like the sororities, that's not enough because they too capitalist and they too bought into that system. They too into the system. So that's not going to work for us, the ones that's outside of it. Now, that don't mean that they can't, have convergence or go back and forth as far as like if they are a member of the Nakhti Queen Mothership. I'm not saying they can't be in it. But what I'm saying is, going along with the way their infrastructure is set up is not going to work for those of us that never had access to that anyways, that always got locked out of the D9 social structures that they already have, the links and all that. That doesn't mean that there's beef. It's just obvious. So they would have to be coming on board even with our plan if they wanted to. And if not, we don't even, it's not a big deal. My bloodline thousands and thousands of years ago set all of that up. And it's coming from a male. It's a very high control system. It's coming from a space of control versus, and it's not nature based. And it is based on information that is about being covered and being secret. And so me, as in this lifetime, as Jenny, I'm not concerned with that. I want something that gives us more relaxation, that gives us more autonomy, that gives us more agency, that gives us more, that sovereignty, that feeling of, wow, we can just have that. We could just take a deep breath and relax. We're not worried about money. We're not worried about bills. We're not worried about all this nonsense. We're not worried about fighting. We're not worried about drama. All this drama. These ladies are talking me about all these dramas with their baby daddies and stuff. Like, it's a lot. Like, I be thinking in my head, like, what in the world? Like, it be sounding so crazy. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, the most drama that I've ever had is complaining about something I don't watch on YouTube. Like, I don't have that type of drama in my life. I don't have, even if I know about the surveillance and stuff like that, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, even if you're a targeted individual, you're a chosen one, like, you can choose what kind of external factors affect your internal atmosphere. And at times, I'm not saying I'm perfect. It does sometimes affect me. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying I also have the awareness, like, dude, you could just, you don't have to let that affect you. You could just create a more holistic atmosphere of balance within. That's something that you got to do in your own mind. Nobody else can do that for you. No external things can get that to you. No amount of consuming on Amazon, and no products, no takeout, nothing is going to get that for you. You have to do that from within. And so you may have backsliding moments, but at the end of the day, you know that that's the work that we all have to do. And me as an individual, I know that too. But I don't have all that drama. People like to bring, probably like to, but I don't pay attention to that bullshit. I know how it go. We all know what chosen individuals got to deal with. But like, we don't want to be dealing with somebody and they sorry ass baby daddy. We want these ladies to have an enlightened consciousness about these things. And we all can't compete with each other's path and compete with what another woman is doing. And that's another thing. That's right. Black women can't get nothing really together. Because of some real shit, black women be trying to compete. Like, it's like somebody has something set up or whatever. They know it sound, and then like this copycat spirit come out. Primal jealousy would come out. Sabotage, and then like competing with someone else's path. You don't even know, like, what is your path? Why are you even looking at what somebody else is doing? And so that's another thing. Like, I think the reason why it's like people will get like, oh well, I'll do it. We'll set up something, and you have everybody marching to what the beat of their own drum without the experience, without the innovation, the ingenuity, or the calling, or the fortitude to even go through with something like that. Like, even with me talking about the Nakhti Queen Mothership 6 years later, and the Divine Feminine 6 years later after all the hits, even from the government that I experienced, and I'm still going to keep going with it. I don't care. Like, I know what I'm talking about is correct. I can look at nature. I don't need to see nothing else. I can study trees. I can study the bees. I can study, even if you look at the way watermelons grow, the male and female watermelon, you could look at the way certain oak trees, you could study the red oak tree. You could study, I know what I'm talking about. Study the way the bees work. Ants are matriarchal. A lot of people don't know that. I could study spiders. But then if you want to get to the bigger animals, obviously, lions, bears, all those things. Lions, tigers, and bears. I mean, as cheesy as that sounds, penguins. You could study any birds. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't need to have programming done. I don't need to follow their program. I don't need to follow that system. I know that it's bullshit. I could look at our society and tell that it's bullshit. I know that I could see how they always trying to steal from a nigga, So I'll say this, as women, I hope women realize that, you know, that you're under a certain amount of programming. All of that cattiness, that's actually not natural to melanated women. I can't speak for other women. I just know from what I studied enough where that stuff is not natural. All that uber competitive and even primal jealousy, even certain tribes. I could show you some of the tribes that to prove what I'm talking about too. It's not natural. So somebody had to program you to be that way. That's like how they program the colorism of the community and all that nonsense. Like those are nothing but programs. They're scripts. They're dead scripts to me, in my mind. And they're scripts that don't even work. They don't add to any power. They don't add to any empowerment. So what you following them for? And so if you see someone that has the mind and the will to think of something for us, it doesn't make sense to undermine it. These niggas is not going to build it. It's not about to take the Nakhti Queen Mothership and build it out, even with what's out there, because there's only 7% out there, because obviously we wanted to get the publishing done because we knew niggas was going to plagiarize, but on two, we knew niggas would try to steal. So we don't give out everything, and it is for that reason. Like, I don't care how it look. Like, I already know people could say, well, if you really you would just no, that's not how that works. That's not how that works in any space-time dimension, across any galaxy, across any Earth-based planet. That is not how that works. It even tells you that in the Bible. You never muzzle an ox that's treading grain. You don't muzzle an ox that's treading grain. And that's what this community has been doing with actual good people. You've been muzzling an ox that's treading grain, and that's why that's why you don't have nothing. It's a fact. It's not just the black community doing it. It's the whole system doing it. But I'm saying they copying the same methods and thinking that they're going to go into glory or build out the kingdom of Judah or inherit what Judah has. That's not how that's going to work. You don't muzzle an ox that's treading grain. So and I know that. So if I'm coming up with something and I know that there's a bunch of hating ass niggas and I know there's a bunch of people that's trying, let's just steal this. Let's just take that and try to push me out of my shit. No. You will not get, you could, even if you tried it now, because I already know there's certain intricate mechanisms. I just had a dream last night of certain tax systems and membership systems, a whole new tax systems. I got 3 different tax systems that we could choose from, that we could vote on as melanated people. Sure do. I just had a dream last night about the tax systems. What was that? I'm trying to think, because I probably should write that down, what that was, as far as the intricacies, because that one was a little different than the one I came up with. Let me think real quick. Let me spend 30 seconds just to refresh my memory on that dream. Oh, okay. So that was more of incentive for some of the people that had them. So that's more for a tax system for people that are richer, for people that have money, big money. But I also came up with ones for corporations, all types of stuff. Like it's written down, and it's like it's like, what are we doing? We have 3 different tax systems we can think of. And these tax systems obviously go to the things that we need this time. Things that we need that's good circulated in the community, so where we don't have to worry about those type of things. Okay, high level stuff is high level stuff. And now we could have, and even the way the tax systems in terms of the new physical currency that it came up with, even your refund type, based on that physical currency. And then obviously we have the hybrid barter economy with also forms of tokenization. You can choose which type of form your refund comes in, if you are due a refund, right? And so that is also something. Did I write that down? I did write that down in a book somewhere. These are the things. Like, my thing is, don't muzzle access trading grain. You know I got the motherfucking ideas. You know I got the motherfucking sauce. You can get mad all you want because you want to control and steal my shit. And that's really all this is about. I just want people to know, like, okay, in the future, like, why was this girl so shadow banned? Why was they blacklisting her so bad? Why was they like trying? Why is there documentation of plagiarism all over the place from certain people? Whether it be the government, like, what the fuck was it? Why was she talking about people trying to sacrifice her? Why was she talking? I want you to know what this shit is about. Like, these motherfuckers don't fool me. And like I said, there is a satanic system that we're fighting against. I don't care how much they try to cover that up. But the more sociological thing would say a high control system, which is not my term. That's actually another sociologist. I think she's a psychiatrist or a psychologist that came up with that term, a high control system. And so what we were shedding light on is like these covert systems that use plausible deniability. Now, the plausible deniability term, that does come from me. I came up with that years ago, and I put it in my book for military science to detect secret societies that infiltrate government. See, I just come out and say it. Secret societies that infiltrate government. I can't pussyfoot with people to clean this up. It's ugly. Secret societies infiltrated the government. JFK already told niggas about that. That was your last president for the most part, give or take. And so, this is what we dealing with. I'm not about to sit and have my, like, I don't care how cruel it sounds. I know for a fact that that's not how you work. That is not how you treat good people. That's not how you treat a good soul. That's somebody that's on some wicked shit. So make sure you know that, humanity, when somebody is trying to constantly get something out of you, but don't reciprocate for you, don't compliment you, don't compensate you for your time and for your efforts and for your knowledge. But then you see them same people wanting to steal your shit. Now they claiming that it's they told me who was behind it. One of my they claim five, and I could say this, I don't care how it sounds. They said five billionaires told me that it's one of my family members that's doing it. That got ties to CIA. They could be lying. It could be very much them. But see, what you think is the billionaires, you think they got the power. They don't, right? They don't have the power. And so that's what they were telling me, that it wasn't them behind it. That it's not, but that's what they claim. Now, they were saying this in 2023. Because I'm like, we should be way beyond, as far as our systems. So somebody is purposely lagging a system because they can't hang with the big dogs. They can't hang with the high frequency niggas. That's what that means. Somebody is purposely lagging. Sorry if you hear noise. I'm going to put in fresh soil. I hope this is not mold, is it? Let me take that out of here. Oh, I wouldn't be able to tell. I'm learning how to do these little plants and stuff, and I water them and shit, try to do my best. But, that means somebody frequency, like, they can't hang with the big dogs that's trying to do something different. That want to do something new. And that ain't our motherfucking problem. It's really not. Oh, there's a spider in here. You better get your ass on. He living in the pot. He living in the, better get your motherfucking I'm not going to kill him, but we better find a safe space to go, because I'm not going to work around you. I can't even see him no more. She done climbed up the damn... I don't know. Let me get off of here. But like I said, on a lighter note, let's get that little pilot show going. I think that shit would be funny as hell. Let's get that pilot show going. Let's do that. And let's, because the economy is they talking about the economy and shit. And I'm not even doing this as a distraction. Like, I really want to know myself about this consumer spirit. What happens to the brain on dopamine when it has unlimited access, or when it has to budget? And what happens when they're in proximity to one another to see that, And when they have it, what are the effects afterwards in terms of, do the dopamine get increased? Does it get lower? Does the serotonin? We want to know all those things. And we want to know what the changes in their behavior as far as before and after, and even maybe post-hoc, And so I think that would be a cool show. I really do. And, showing just people in their natural environment, showing, that I think you could get a couple characters that play it up, some people that... I think it would be interesting. I really do. I think all over the country, different ethnicities. I think that shit would be dope. I do. I would love to watch a show like that these days. Because I've been watching Survivor for so long. Remember the show Survivor? It don't hit the same. It's too. They've been doing Fiji for so many years. They don't even travel around the world anymore. Remember, when Survivor first came on, they used to go to South Africa and China and Australia and all these different places. They don't even do that no more. And so they just been doing Fiji, and so there's nothing wrong with that, but, it just feels so I don't know, maybe commercialized or dated, and then they took out, certain elements like I like the auction, you know, they took out some of the auction. Um, what else did they use that? But it's been so long with Survivor, and it don't hit the same because really Survivor, technically how they live in, that's naturally how we supposed to live. And so when they do those auctions and people spend that enormous amount for the items, technically it's like that's the Matrix. That's the Matrix. But really you're supposed to be out what they call Survivor. That's supposed to be a natural living origin. So it don't hit the same no more once you know that. It's kind of like, well, really, that's supposed to be more natural. And they make a whole show about it, right? So the show don't hit the same. But I think in the context of what we're going through now, and even with my own outlook on consumerism and spending and whatnot, and not being perfect, and my own curiosity, like at times when you're forced to budget, at times when you just want to spend. Everybody knows how that is. You just want to spend your money. I want to get this. And so I would like to see that show. I really would. So I'm a pilot that show and see what we can do, because I really am curious. I want to see, is y'all from a researcher perspective and from an entertainment perspective, and this is another thing. This is another complaint that I got with these shows that show like Star Wars or like the aliens and all that stuff. Why do y'all aliens have to look so ugly all the time? Like, it's this show I'm watching called The Orville. I think it's a really good show. It's a little cheesy at times. It's a little cheesy. I ain't gonna hold you. I think plots could have been, written out better. But why do you think that all of the aliens on that show is so ugly? They're ugly and demonic looking. And I'm like, do y'all know how Saturnian beings look? Like, some of these beings are sexy. Like, some of them are real tall, dark chocolate, beautiful hair, these glowing eyes, all different types of creatures. Like, why would you assume that they all look ugly with motherfucking cones out their head and scale? Like they are so ugly on the Orville. Like, all of the creatures are supposed to be like aliens. They are ugly and cheesy looking. And I'm like, that's not like, why would you assume? Some of them are really tall. Some of them may have bigger eyes, but the eyes are really pretty. Like, why is all this ugliness? Like, they all look demonic. I'm like, can we get some shows where the aliens look sexy? Like, or look good looking? Why do they all have to be ugly? I really don't understand that shit. That shit really bothers me. It really do. I'm like, damn. Not every damn alien is motherfucking ugly. Now, you're going to have some different looks, right? Don't get me wrong. You're going to have some different looks. Different types. Let me see. I need to push this up. I should have did this better. Okay, let's see. I'll put that right there so that she's up. Let's see. Damn, this spider's still moving around. Go away so you don't get hurt. Get out the pot. Shouldn't even be in there. Okay, let's see. I didn't want it to turn away. Sticking up a little bit more than it was. Okay, so but my thing is like, I just don't understand that shit. I said, damn, like that Orville show, with the exception of that little elf-looking chick, with that was real strong. They are all ugly. The Mocklin, I'm like, what the fuck? And the Mocklin, they only a male species, and they all some weird type of weird shit. I'm like, who wrote this bullshit? Like, here y'all go. That's why I said we are so more conservative on some level, even though, a lot of black people tend to be more liberal. It's like, it's something in us that's kind of naturally, I'm like, what kind of wild ass shit is this? I'm like, who wrote this? Good show though, but they could do better. They really can. They could do better. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, let me get off of here. Did what I needed to do. with this plant. Do the other one need? I'm gonna maybe put a little bit on the other plant. Okay, you guys take care. Keep hope alive. Bye.